Hello and welcome to Sarge's Custom Tutorials. Today we're going to be looking at the Masters of the Universe Revelations Masterverse Orko, and what we're going to do is turn the Revelations Orko into a more classic looking Orko. I'm going to trim this scarf that he has on, and the biggest thing I'm going to do is add some sleeves onto each arm using some milliput, and then obviously painting the O onto the sweater once it's done. So first thing I'm going to do is warm up the body and get it all taken apart. Okay, so I got the body taken apart, and just heads up, warming it up and taking the arms out was a little bit scary. The arms warm up a lot faster because it's a thinner piece than the actual body does. So when I pulled it out, it actually got, if you can see it, a little bit of a stress mark right there. You can kind of see in the corner of where his shoulder meets his bicep, that's that little white spot. That's a stress mark on the plastic. So it's stretched and almost wanted to tear while I was pulling it out. They're in there pretty good. See how it's put together. It's a pretty thick piece of plastic and it's pretty solid. So just be careful taking those out. So the first thing I'm going to do is I want this to be a smaller scarf. So there's kind of a convenient line that goes all the way around right here. And that'll be like the perfect size kind of classic scarf. So I'm going to cut into this corner here and then work the knife all the way around, staying in that line. And that should wind up with, and it's under, there's kind of a solid bit right here, and that's under it, so that should be like the perfect size scarf for kind of a classic looking Orko. So after cutting it, I smoothed out the bottom with some sandpaper, and it looks pretty good on the body. This thing just snaps right on there. So that's a good kind of classic looking Orko scarf and body. And we'll paint the O on later. The arms are going to be a little bit more complicated. These are in there really tight. So if I put sculpting putty around the arms, I'm going to have to Dremel this hole to make it a little bit bigger so that the arm won't actually be touching any of the sides. So there will be a little bit of a gap there. But I don't really mind that so much, and you'll actually still have the articulation without rubbing off the paint. But first things first, we're going to do putty on the arms. I think I'm going to kind of leave the shoulder as is and do putty basically from here to the wrist and make it look like, a sleeve. And then I'll just paint this and leave that as is. Okay, if you haven't used milliput before, it comes in a few different colors. This is just the standard. It's kind of a yellow-white color. It's a two-part epoxy putty, and you want them to be about equal size amounts. And then you just kind of knead them together until you get a consistent color. You can find milliput at most hobby shops. You can find it online. Okay, as you can see, we have a nice consistent color and texture. Kind of feels, it's a little bit thicker than like a Play-Doh, and you can, if it starts to dry up, you can actually get it wet with just some water. And it also helps kind of like smooth out the edges when you're actually sculpting. It does kind of get a little muddy. It kind of feels like wet clay. But first thing we're gonna do, I need to split this in half because we're gonna do both arms, and I'm gonna kind of do it roughly onto each arm first, and then we'll kind of do fine-tuning later. So I want this to look kind of like a wizard's sleeve, so it's going to be kind of thin at the top and then kind of come out to like a cuff down here. Again, I want to kind of keep it off the shoulder so that it doesn't mess with the articulation. So I just kind of want to get like a basic shape, something kind of like that. Obviously needs a little bit more shape to it to make it look like there's an arm in there, but that's kind of the general idea. To make the actual sleeve look here, I'm just going to take this and kind of plunge it into there. And then it kind of, you can see here where it kind of like cracked a little bit. You can go back over that later with some water and it'll smooth that out. But kind of get basically like a sleeve look. And like I said, if it does start to kind of feel like it's drying and getting a little harder, you can add water to it and it'll soften up again. Another thing, so I got my finger wet and I'm kind of like pulling the sculpt towards where I'm gonna leave it as the plastic, and that'll help kind of smooth out that transition, and then we'll come back again later and do sandpaper on that, and that should make it almost seamless. Problem is there's not a whole lot of bend in his arm to begin with. I don't want it to just look completely straight. If you've never used Milliput for sculpting before or any other sculpting clay, this is kind of something that is probably a good way to dip your toe in something like this, or just get a crap figure and try to do something similar and get an idea of how to work with it before you start doing something that's a little bit more complex, but that's pretty good. Okay, Milliput has dried, and I'm gonna sand it with some fine grit sandpaper and try to kind of smooth out any transitions here and add a little bit of shape with it. And basically for that I'm just going to work with what's already there, the shape that's already there, and kind of enhance it to make it look a little bit more like fabric. I opted to not add, because I knew I was going to do this, I couldn't add texture to it because I would just end up sanding it off. Alright, so we have sanded it down, we've added a little bit of shape to make it look a little bit more like fabric, flowy fabric. Okay, next I'm going to make the shoulder sockets just a little bit bigger so that when the arm is in there and it's painted, you can move it around and it won't actually touch the sides, so that it won't rub off the paint. And for that I have this small wood carving bit, and this can kind of go real fast as far as taking away material, so I'm going to do it really slow and easily. And basically it's just slightly smaller than that hole already is, and I'm going to push it in just a tiny bit, and I'm going to push it in just a tiny bit to take out kind of the back wall, and I'll go around very slowly to take out side wall, but no, again, I'm not going to go much bigger than it already is. I just need a tiny bit of space. I think I can just push this thing in there. Oh yeah, I can. Okay, so as you can see there, I got a little bit of space kind of around the shoulder now. And I think I still have to do just a little bit more. And it moves pretty good, but I still think it's going to rub just a little bit, so I'll take some of that off. Okay, so you can see here, got a little bit more space all the way around, so that should be pretty good. I'll just do the same on the other side. Alright, that's pretty good. Lots of room in there now. Okay. So now I need to touch up this piece. I'll do all this off camera, but I need to touch this piece up with some more milliput, and then we can paint these guys. While we're waiting for those to dry, we can paint our O on here. And to do that, I'm going to actually put the scarf on him because I want it to be below the scarf. And now rather than freehand it, what I'm going to do is use some sticky tack, and what this is going to be is my stencil for the outside of the circle. And what I'm going to do is just use a pen. It's a marker, it's a fine point marker, and draw the outline of the outside of my circle, and then I'll do the same thing for the inside, and then I'll paint over it so I have basically lines to guide me. This marker you can just wipe right off with your finger. It takes a while to dry, so this is just for kind of a guide. And I'm going to draw around the outside of it. So there we have the outside of our O. I'll make this a little bit smaller. Being very careful not to wipe away our outside. Even if we do a little bit, it's okay. Okay, looks pretty good. Alright. And there we go. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's going to get painted over anyway. You can actually see. There it is. Right there. I'm using Tamiya acrylics, flat black, and then I'm just going to paint directly over it. Alright. I think that looks pretty good. Sneak peek. Which side's the front? That's the front. Yeah. Get a quick sneak peek of what he's going to look like here. That's not bad. Pretty good classic Orko there. Alright, so my arms are all dried now, and I have mixed a color using, still using Tamiya acrylics. I mixed a color using flat red, flat blue, and flat white. And it's kind of as close as I can get, but I won't really be able to tell if it's perfect until it dries, because it'll dry a little bit different, slightly different color, but we're going to go with this for now. I can always go over it again. I've also added a little bit of water to it to make it a little thinner, because when you're painting on action figures, your best course of action is lots of thin layers. So rather than just doing like a full thickness coat right off the get-go, I'm going to do lots and lots of thin layers. On top of this white, it already kind of looks like a little bit more, it's more brown, but that might just be the color of the, kind of like the yellow milliput coming through. Get that down so I can set it down. There we go. And you're gonna let that first coat dry and do several more. Usually I do probably 4 or 5. Okay, so I matched this color as close as I could, but I feel like there's a little bit of a wash on here, and I don't, it's mostly well done, but I feel like just that way I don't have to fight with trying to match the color. I'm actually just going to paint over the whole body with this as well. And because it's already similar color, it can be a real thin coat and it'll match the arms better. I just gotta be careful around my O. And it should definitely help. It's a little more brown than I want. I have to do more coats on this, so I'll probably add a little bit more red, a little bit more white, and make it kind of a pinkish color more so than a purpley brown that it is right now. But this will be a good first coat. Alright, I have finished the paint and it is all dry. I did have to go back over the black again because I had a few little bits where the red was kind of cutting into it. And there's your... It's going to look pretty good once it's all put together, which right now I'm going to warm up the body, put the arms back in, and get it all together. Arms are on. Head is on. And there we have a Classic Orko. Masterverse Classic Orko. I like that a lot. You can see here I kind of got like a little bit of space around the arms to move it around in there, so that should help with avoiding any paint scratching. He still has his arms can't go down quite as far as they used to, but that's okay. He's obviously not superposable figure anyway, but not sure why Masterverse decided not to put out just a classic Orko just yet, but hey, not that hard to make one yourself. Looks pretty good. I didn't do anything to hat. I kind of like the hat with this stuff on it. I know his original hat was just kind of plain, but I kind of like all this stuff, so I'm going to leave that. Alright, now for some comparison shots. Here he is with a before and after with the Masterverse Revelations Orko. Here he is with a customized Masterverse He-Man and a Masterverse Skeletor. Here he is with Masterverse Teela and Man-at-Arms. Here he is with the Masterverse Sorceress and Evelyn. Here he is with the Mythic Legion's Legendary Barbarian and Skeleton Ilgar. Here he is with Savage Crucible Como of the Isles and Zezre Studios Berenice. Here he is with some NECA Dungeons and Dragons figures. And here he is with the Frazetta Girls Icon Collectibles Norseman and the Marvel Legends Khazar. Well, there you go. Not too much work to turn the Masterverse Orko into a Classic Orko. Not sure why Masterverse hasn't actually released a Classic Orko yet. I know they released the Revolutions one where he's in the white, but when you have most of the other classic figures, why not an Orko? And it wouldn't be that much of a change to make this version of the figure. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below. Let me know what Masterverse figures you're hoping that'll come out pretty soon. I'm really hoping for a good a Vicor would be amazing, mostly because I'm a Conan fan, and he's basically Conan. I can't think of anything else that I need in my collection. They've already done a pretty good job of getting a lot of good characters. So anyway, thank you for watching Sarge's Custom Tutorials.